Ambassador Elena Reyes walked with a steady pace through the long crystal hallway. Her footsteps echoed on the polished floor of Proxima Station. 2 human guards followed behind her, their faces serious and focused. Today would change everything. The massive doors of the council chamber slid open. Inside, representatives from 27 alien species sat in rising circular rows. Their strange forms filled the room with colors, shapes, and quiet whispers. Some had scales that shimmered under the bright lights. Others had multiple limbs that moved as they talked. A few floated in special tanks filled with their home gases. Elena felt all their eyes on her as she walked to the center of the room. The metal disc of the speaking platform rose slightly as she stepped onto it. The whispers stopped. Honored members of the Galactic Council, Elena began, her voice clear and strong. For 200 years, humanity has been part of this alliance. We have traded with you, learned from you, and shared what knowledge we could offer. She paused, looking around the chamber. The Zelar delegation, tall blue beings with 4 arms, watched her with narrow eyes. They had never hidden their belief that humans were too primitive to deserve a council seat. Today, I come with an official message from Earth Central Government. As of this moment, humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council effective immediately. The chamber erupted in noise. Some delegates stood up, their voices rising in protest or surprise. Others remained seated, their faces showing shock or confusion. A few, Elena noticed, didn't seem surprised at all. The council leader, a tall Meridian with silver skin, raised his hand for silence. Ambassador Reyes, this is most unexpected. The council requires explanation and time to discuss this matter. Withdrawal cannot be so abrupt. Elena shook her head. Our decision is final. All human diplomats are already leaving council space. Our military forces have been ordered to return to Earth-controlled territories. All trade agreements will be honored for 30 more days, giving your merchants time to adjust. This is outrageous, shouted Delegate Vorn of the Zelar. His blue skin darkened with anger. Humans cannot simply leave. You have obligations, agreements, debts to the council. All debts have been paid, Elena replied calmly. All obligations have been fulfilled. Earth owes nothing to the council. From the upper row, another voice spoke. This one was softer, more thoughtful. Ambassador Krell of the Dovanri leaned forward, his 4 compound eyes reflecting the light. The Dovanri were among the oldest species in the galaxy, known for their deep thinking and careful analysis. Ambassador Reyes, Krell said, his voice carrying despite its softness, in the 2 centuries of human membership, your kind has always been unpredictable, but never irrational. What has happened to cause this sudden decision? Elena looked directly at Krell. Of all the council members, the Dovanri had always treated humans with genuine respect. The reasons are numerous, Ambassador Krell. For decades, human scientific discoveries have been dismissed, our warnings ignored, our requests for equal treatment denied. The council views Earth as a minor power, useful only for our location and resources. We have decided our future lies elsewhere. The council leader's voice turned cold. So the primitives are having a tantrum? You'll be back when you realize how much you need our protection and technology. Elena smiled slightly. We appreciate your concern, but humanity will manage. She didn't mention what everyone in Earth's government knew, that human scientists had secretly matched or surpassed council technology in many areas. The council had never noticed because they assumed humans couldn't possibly advance so quickly. There is one more thing, Elena added. 5 years ago, our deep space observatories detected an anomaly approaching from beyond the galaxy. We brought this information to the council, with clear evidence of the danger it presented. Our reports were dismissed as human paranoia and insufficient evidence. That nonsense again? Scoffed Vorn. Your primitive sensors obviously malfunctioned. Our superior systems have detected nothing unusual. Perhaps, Elena said, you were looking in the wrong places or for the wrong signs. Regardless, humanity has chosen its path. She stepped off the platform, giving the traditional council farewell gesture. May your species prosper and find wisdom. As Elena walked out of the chamber, the noise grew behind her. Arguments had already started about what this meant for the balance of power in the galaxy, how the trade routes would change, what Earth might be planning. Only Krell remained silent, his ancient eyes following Elena until the doors closed behind her. In the corridor, Elena's assistant waited with a secure communication device. "They're ready for your confirmation, Ambassador." Elena took the device and entered her personal code. "This is Ambassador Reyes. The message has been delivered. Proceed with Operation Sanctuary." "Understood, Ambassador," came the reply from Earth Command. "The first colony ships are already moving. Phase 1 is active." As Elena walked toward the human docking bay, she felt both sadness and determination. The Council had never understood humanity. They saw humans as emotional, unpredictable, even primitive. They never realized these qualities were strengths, not weaknesses. In the docking bay, the last human ships were preparing to leave. Diplomats, traders, and military personnel moved quickly and efficiently, following a plan that had been prepared for months. Captain Miguel Santos approached Elena as she boarded the flagship. "All ships report ready, Ambassador. We can leave as soon as you're aboard." "Any problems with the Council security forces?" Elena asked. Miguel shook his head. "They're confused but not stopping us. I don't think they believe we're really leaving. They'll understand soon enough," Elena said. As the human ships detached from Proxima Station, Elena watched the massive structure grow smaller through the viewing window. The gleaming symbol of galactic cooperation that had never truly accepted humanity. Her communication device chimed. A message from Dr. Samira Patel, head of the Deep Space Observatory on Earth. "New calculations complete. The anomaly has accelerated. Estimated arrival in Council space 15 months. Our departure window is narrowing." Elena closed her eyes briefly. They had even less time than they thought. "Set course for Earth," she told the captain. "Maximum speed. Every day counts now." As the ships engaged their engines and accelerated away from Council space, Elena thought about the enormous task ahead, moving billions of people, saving as much of human civilization as possible, and perhaps, despite everything, finding a way to warn the Council again before it was too late. The Council thought humanity was leaving out of pride or anger. They didn't understand that humans were running against time, preparing for a storm that would consume the galaxy. A storm that only humans had seen coming. Operation Sanctuary had begun. The race to save humanity was on. 3 months after humanity's dramatic departure from the Galactic Council, strange reports began to spread across Council space. At first, they were just whispers and rumors. Then official reports confirmed what many found hard to believe. Humans were leaving their colonies. All of them. Trader Jax, a green-scaled Vexari, landed his ship at Horizon Colony, once a busy human mining outpost. He expected the usual noise and activity. Instead, he found empty landing pads and quiet buildings. "Where is everyone?" he asked. The few humans still present. A tired-looking woman in a supervisor uniform answered. "Most people left 2 weeks ago. We're the cleanup crew. This colony closes in 3 days." "Closes?" Jax couldn't believe it. "This is one of the richest platinum sources in the sector." The woman shrugged. "Everything's for sale, including mining rights. Cheap, too. Talk to our business office if you're interested." Similar scenes played out across dozens of human colonies. Places that had taken decades to build were being emptied in weeks. Massive ships previously unknown to Council intelligence arrived to transport entire populations away. Equipment was packed up or sold at surprisingly low prices. Buildings were shut down in an organized, methodical way. On the Council capital, an emergency meeting was called. "What are the humans planning?" demanded the Council leader, looking at the reports streaming in from across the galaxy. The head of Council intelligence, a tall Meridian named Savar, looked troubled. "We don't know. They're selling valuable properties and resource rights at a fraction of their worth. They've cut communication to the minimum required by departure protocols. When questioned, Their diplomats simply say they are pursuing opportunities outside council jurisdiction. Ambassador Krell of the Divanry studied the star map showing human evacuation patterns. Have we confirmed their destination? No, said Savar. Their ships head toward Earth but then disappear from our tracking networks. We believe they're using some kind of stealth technology we haven't seen before. Impossible, shouted Delegate Vorn of the Zelar. Human technology is inferior to ours. They cannot have developed stealth systems that evade our sensors. Krell's compound eyes reflected the starlight from the map. Perhaps we have underestimated them. Nonsense, said the council leader. They're obviously bluffing. This is an attempt to get attention, to force concessions from the council. Then why sell their assets at such low prices? Asked Krell. That serves no purpose in a bluff. No one had a good answer. On Earth, Dr. Samira Patel stared at her computer screen in the Deep Space Observatory. The data hadn't changed. If anything, it was worse than previous calculations. The anomaly has accelerated again, she told Director Chen, who stood beside her desk. Whatever it is, it's consuming stars at an increasing rate. On the screen, a simulation showed a dark wave moving through space, leaving emptiness where stars had once shined. How long do we have? Asked Chen. 15 months before it reaches the first council worlds. Perhaps 18 months before Earth is affected. Samira rubbed her tired eyes. And that's if it maintains current speed. If it continues to accelerate. Chen nodded grimly. I'll inform the evacuation committee. How's the new detection system coming? We've confirmed it works, said Samira. The anomaly doesn't just consume matter, it's tracking energy signatures. Specifically the type of energy produced by council standard technology. And our modified systems? So far undetected. The crystalline technology we've developed doesn't register on its sensors. Chen looked out the window at the night sky. We tried to warn them. Do you think we should try again? Asked Samira. Chen was quiet for a moment. The evacuation committee will decide. But we have our orders. Saving as many humans as possible comes first. From orbit, the dark side of the moon looked nothing like it had 3 years ago. What had once been empty craters was now covered with the largest shipyard ever built. Thousands of workers in spacesuits moved between enormous construction platforms. Massive ships took shape. Not warships, but huge vessels designed to carry people and supplies across vast distances. General Laura Hayes looked out from the command center window, watching the activity below. Status report, she said to the officer beside her. The first wave is ready, General. 20 million people can depart as scheduled. And the ARC project? The asteroid habitats are at 85% completion. We've hollowed out 11 large asteroids and installed the life support systems. Each one can support up to 2 million people indefinitely. General Hayes nodded. And the new propulsion systems? Tested and confirmed. The Council would say they're impossible, but they work. We can reach the safe zone in 3 months rather than 20 years. Good. Hayes turned from the window. We're in a race against extinction, people. We can't afford delays. Back in Council space, opportunistic traders and corporations rushed to buy the properties humans were selling so cheaply. New colonies moved into abandoned human outposts. Mining operations changed hands. For many Council species, it seemed like a wonderful opportunity. Only a few, like Ambassador Krell, felt uneasy. Late one night, Krell used his private communication system to contact an old human friend, Professor James Wong. They had worked together on scientific projects years ago, before politics had come between their species. The call connected, showing James in what looked like a temporary office, with boxes packed around him. Krell, James said with genuine warmth. It's good to see you, old friend. And you, James. I see you are moving? James looked around at the boxes and smiled sadly. Everyone is. James, Krell said quietly. What is happening? Why this exodus? The Council believes it's some kind of political move, but I know better. James was silent for a moment. You always were perceptive, Krell. Do you remember that anomaly our team detected 5 years ago? The one the council dismissed? I do. I was one of the few who believed your data. It's real, Krell, and it's coming faster than we predicted. We call them the Devourers now. They consume everything, planets, stars, even the space between, and they're heading directly for council space. Krell felt a cold fear spread through him. How long? The first council worlds will be hit in about a year, Earth shortly after. And you're certain? Absolutely. We've been tracking them, studying them. They follow energy signatures, specifically the kind produced by council standard technology. That's why we've been developing alternative systems based on crystalline technology your ancestors abandoned millennia ago. And you're leaving council space entirely? James nodded. We've found safe zones, regions the Devourers avoid or can't detect. We're moving everyone we can. The entire human population? Krell was amazed. We're trying. It's the largest migration in our history. Krell's voice grew urgent. James, the council must be warned. Properly this time with all your evidence. James looked sad. We tried, Krell. Multiple times. The last attempt was when Elena Reyes addressed the council directly. They called it human paranoia, remember? Now we're focused on saving our people. And the rest of us, James hesitated. I'll talk to the committee. That's all I can promise. After the call ended, Krell sat in his dark office thinking. If the humans were right, and deep inside he believed they were, then the council had only months before facing something they couldn't imagine. And their best hope, the species they had dismissed as primitive and emotional, was silently disappearing into the stars. The exodus continued, quiet but unstoppable. Every day more humans left council space, heading toward unknown regions beyond the Perseus Arm. They moved with purpose and determination, following a plan years in the making. Time was running out for everyone. 1 year after humanity's departure from the Galactic Council, life had mostly returned to normal for the 27 member species. The humans' absence was barely noticed now. Their colonies had been taken over by other species. Their trading, routes reassigned, their seat in the council chambers left empty. On the agricultural planet Nimbara, home to the gentle Telleran people, it was harvest season. Their fields of golden grain stretched across the rolling hills. The Tellerans were known throughout the galaxy for their peaceful ways and their skill at growing food. Their planet supplied many council worlds with high-quality crops. In the outer main communications center of Nimbara's capital city, Operator Tella was finishing her shift when an unusual alert appeared on her screen. That's strange, she said to her colleague. The long-range sensors are detecting something at the edge of our system. Unidentified ships? Her colleague asked, looking up from his work. No. Tella frowned at the readings. It's not registering as ships, more like a cloud of small objects, thousands of them, maybe millions. She sent the standard greeting message requesting identification. No response came. I'm alerting Central Command, she decided, pressing the emergency button. But it was already too late. The transmission from Nimbara to the council capital ended abruptly mid-sentence. One moment, the operator was describing the approaching objects. The next, silence. When investigation ships arrived 2 days later, the sight that greeted them was beyond horror. Nimbara, once a beautiful, thriving world, was being systematically taken apart. The planet's surface crawled with billions of small machine-like entities. They moved like a silver flood across the land, consuming everything they touched. Plants, animals, buildings, even the soil itself. The investigation ships tried to get closer to understand what was happening. 3 of them never returned. The 4th barely escaped, carrying terrified crew members and frightening footage of the disaster. An emergency council session was called immediately. What are these things? Demanded the council leader, as the footage played on the large screen in the chamber. The images showed the silver swarm consuming a Telleran city, breaking apart buildings and converting the materials into more of themselves. The head of council science, a Vexari named Dr. Jackson, looked pale even through his green scales. We don't know exactly. They appear to be some kind of self-replicating machines. They consume matter and create more of themselves. Are they an attack? Asked Delegate Vorn. A weapon sent by some enemy? We don't believe so, said Dr. Jackson. They seem to be following a pattern that suggests they're not controlled by any intelligence we understand. They're more like a natural disaster, a technological plague. Ambassador Krell sat quietly, his compound eyes fixed on the screen. He had feared something like this since his conversation with James Wong a year ago. The humans had been right. Can we destroy them? The council leader asked. We tried, reported the military commander. Our weapons had no effect. Shooting them just gave them more material to consume. They absorbed the energy from our energy weapons and used the metal from our projectiles to make more of themselves. How fast do they spread? Someone asked. Dr. Jackson touched his screen, bringing up a simulation. Based on what we observed, they'll reach the nearest inhabited system in approximately 2 weeks. After that, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Everyone could see the simulation, showing the swarm spreading across council space like a disease. There's something else, he added quietly. Our scientists detected a quantum-level signal emanating from the swarm. It travels faster than light and appears to be targeting worlds with specific energy signatures. What kind of signatures? Asked the council leader. The energy produced by standard council technology, Dr. Jackson replied. The same technology used by virtually all our member worlds. A horrified silence fell over the chamber. These things aren't just consuming worlds randomly, Dr. Jackson continued. They're hunting them. Hunting us specifically. The council leader stood up. We must evacuate the worlds in their path immediately. How many ships can we gather? The logistics officer looked up from her calculations. Not enough. If we use every available ship in council space, we can evacuate perhaps 20% of the populations of the threatened worlds. More silence. The implications were clear. Billions would be left behind. There must be another solution, said the council leader desperately. Some way to stop these devourers, said Krell, speaking for the first time. All eyes turned to him. That's what the humans called them. What? The council leader stared at him. The humans knew, Krell said, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent chamber. They detected the devourers years ago. They tried to warn us. We didn't listen. That's absurd, sputtered Delegate Vorn. If they knew about such a threat, they would have shared all their information. They did, said Krell. 5 years ago, Ambassador Reyes presented evidence to this very council. The report was dismissed as human paranoia and insufficient evidence. You voted against even forming a committee to investigate further, Delegate Vorn. The council leader looked stunned. Are you saying the humans left because of these devourers? Yes, said Krell. They've been preparing for this for years. Their exodus wasn't a political move. It was survival. But where did they go? Asked someone. Beyond council space, said Krell, to regions they believed would be safe from the devourers. The council leader's voice turned angry. So they saved themselves and abandoned the rest of the galaxy? How typical of their selfish species. Krell stood up. With respect, leader, we abandoned them first. When they needed our help, our resources, our cooperation to prepare, we mocked them and dismissed their concerns. He walked to the center of the chamber. I move that we immediately attempt to establish contact with Earth or any human outposts we can find. They've had years to study these devourers. They may have information that could help us. The vote was quick and unanimous. Pride meant nothing in the face of extinction. 3 days later, after countless failed attempts to contact any human settlement, Krell sat alone in his private office. He had one last option, a personal communication code James Wong had given him years ago for emergencies. He entered the code, not really expecting an answer. To his surprise, the system connected. A human face appeared on the screen, but not James. This was a woman with dark skin and short gray hair, wearing a military uniform. Ambassador Krell, she said. I'm Admiral Chen of Earth Fleet, James told. Us you might call one day. Admiral, Krell said, his voice urgent. The Devourers have arrived. They've consumed the Talaran homeworld and are spreading quickly. The Council needs help. Any information, any technology that might stop them or help us evacuate. Admiral Chen's face showed no surprise, only sadness. We expected this call. We've been monitoring the situation. Then you'll help? Hope flickered in Krell's voice. We can help some, she said, but not all. Our resources are stretched thin with our own evacuation. She typed something on a keyboard off screen. I'm sending coordinates to this secure channel. Bring as many ships as you can to these exact locations. You have 2 weeks before that sector becomes inaccessible. Inaccessible? Why? The Devourers will be there by then, she said simply. This is the best we can do, Ambassador. I'm sorry. We couldn't convince your council in time to save everyone. The transmission ended, leaving Krell with a set of coordinates and a terrible choice to make. When he presented the coordinates to the council, their response was predictable. It's a trap, declared Delegate Vorn. The humans want to lure our ships away so we're even more vulnerable. Or they're trying to save at least some of us, Krell countered. The debate raged for days. Precious days while the Devourers consumed 3 more worlds. Pride and suspicion prevented immediate action. Why would the humans help after being dismissed? What might they want in return? Could they be trusted? Meanwhile, the Silver Swarm grew larger with each world it devoured, and time was running out for everyone. Ambassador Krell stood at the bridge window of his ship, watching the small fleet around him. 10 days had passed since his conversation with Admiral Chen. The Council had wasted 7 of those days arguing about whether to trust the human coordinates. Finally, with the Devourers consuming yet another world, Krell had made his decision. I am going, he had told the Council, with or without official approval. Anyone who wishes to survive is welcome to follow. To his surprise, many did. Ships from 6 different species now traveled with him. Mostly civilian vessels packed with refugees. In total, they carried just over 2 million people. It wasn't much compared to the trillions living in Council space, but it was something. Ambassador, his navigator called. We're approaching the coordinates. Krell moved closer to the main view screen. They had arrived at what appeared to be empty space. No planets, no stations, not even an asteroid field. Just darkness between distant stars. Are you certain these are the correct coordinates? He asked. Positive, sir. We're exactly where the humans told us to be. Doubt crept into Krell's mind. Had this been a mistake, a cruel joke, or had something happened to the humans themselves? Sir, the sensor operator's voice was urgent. Something's appearing. Before them, space itself seemed to bend and twist. A massive ring structure materialized where nothing had been moments before. A metal circle larger than any space station Krell had ever seen, at least 20 kilometers in diameter. Incredible, whispered Krell. Some kind of cloaking technology. His communications officer interrupted. Ambassador, we're receiving a transmission. A human face appeared on the screen. A man with dark skin and short gray hair wearing a blue uniform with gold insignia. This is Admiral Javier Mendoza of the United Earth ship Harbinger. Ambassador Krell, I presume? Yes, Admiral. We've come, as instructed. What is this structure? A gateway, Ambassador. One of several we've built. It creates a stable wormhole to a location outside the Devourer's path. As Mendoza spoke, the center of the ring began to glow with blue light. The glow expanded until it filled the entire ring, shimmering like water. Our sensors are detecting more ships arriving behind you, Mendoza continued. Are they with you? Krell checked his own screens. More Council ships were appearing, at least 50 of them, many broadcasting refugee identification codes. Yes, they're with us. More refugees seeking safety. Mendoza nodded. They're welcome, but they need to hurry. This gateway can only remain open for 12 hours before its energy signature attracts the Devourers. 12 hours? Krell was shocked. We can't get everyone through in that time. You'll have to, Mendoza said grimly. This location will be overrun in 14 hours. We've been monitoring the Devourer's advance closely. As the first refugee ships began moving toward the glowing gateway, Krell's second-in-command approached him. Ambassador, she said quietly. Several Council military vessels have just arrived. They're demanding to speak with you. On a separate screen, the stern face of General Tark, the Council's military commander, appeared. Ambassador Krell, you have defied Council orders by coming here. You will return with these ships immediately. I cannot do that, General, Krell replied calmly. The Devourers will reach Council Space Central worlds within days. These refugees have chosen survival. And you trust these humans? Sneered the General. The species that abandoned the galaxy to save themselves? A new voice joined the conversation. Actually, General, we've been saving a lot more than ourselves. Admiral Mendoza had been listening. His expression was serious as he continued. While your council debated whether the Devourers even existed, human ships have evacuated civilians from 12 worlds directly in their path. Worlds your council had written off as acceptable losses because they were too distant to reach with your evacuation ships. That's impossible, sputtered the General. We would have detected such operations. Would you? Mendoza raised an eyebrow. The same way you detected the Devourers before they consumed your first world? Human ships have been using crystalline technology that doesn't register on Devourer sensors, or yours. We've been working in silent mode, prioritizing civilian populations and cultural knowledge repositories. Krell felt a mixture of hope and shame. How many have you saved? Over 30 million people from various species, Mendoza answered. Not enough, but all we could manage with our resources. We had our own people to evacuate too. General Tark looked stunned. Why would you help species that aren't your own? What do you gain? Mendoza's expression hardened. Because it was the right thing to do, General. Something your council might learn someday if you survive long enough. He turned his attention back to Krell. Ambassador, the first of your ships have successfully passed through the gateway. Please continue the evacuation. We don't have much time. As more refugee ships moved toward the gateway, Krell finally asked the question that had been bothering him since the humans left. Admiral Mendoza, why did humanity really leave without telling everyone about the Devourers? Why not try harder to convince us? Mendoza sighed. He pressed some buttons off-screen, and a recording began playing. Krell recognized it immediately. Ambassador, Elena Reyes standing before the Council 5 years earlier, presenting detailed evidence of the approaching threat. The Council's dismissive laughter echoed through the recording. Delegate Vorn's mocking voice called it primitive human paranoia and a transparent attempt to gain influence. We tried, Mendoza said simply as the recording ended. For 5 years we tried. When that failed, we chose to save as many as we could. On the main view screen, the refugee ships continued moving through the gateway. Families who had lost everything were being given a second chance. A Council science vessel approached the Harbinger. Admiral, called its captain, our sensors detect unusual energy patterns in the gateway structure. May we share data with you? Perhaps we can help maintain it longer. Mendoza looked surprised but nodded. Transmit your readings. Our engineers will work with yours. Over the next few hours, something remarkable happened. Council scientists began working with human engineers, sharing knowledge and ideas. The Council ships that had come to force Krell to return instead joined the evacuation efforts, helping coordinate the refugee ships. In a small conference room on the Harbinger, Krell met with Admiral Mendoza and several human scientists. They showed him something that filled him with both hope and dread, a detailed analysis of the Devourer's weakness. They cannot detect or consume technology based on these crystalline structures, explained Dr. Samira Patel, pointing to complex diagrams. It's an energy system your ancestors used millennia ago before developing the standard technology all Council species now use. Why would they be blind to this particular technology? Asked Krell. We believe the Devourers were designed or evolved to target specifically the kind of energy signatures the Council uses, Dr. Patel replied. They ignore anything else as irrelevant. Designed? Krell's compound eyes widened. You think they're artificial? We don't know for certain, admitted Dr. Patel, but they're definitely not random. They have a purpose: to consume advanced technological civilizations. As the evacuation continued, Krell watched the humans working tirelessly to save as many refugees as possible. The species his council had dismissed as primitive and emotional was now their only hope for survival, and time was running out. 1 month after Ambassador Krell's refugees passed through the gateway, the situation in council space had become desperate. The Devourers had accelerated their consumption, adapting and growing more efficient with each world they absorbed. Now, they were approaching the heart of council territory, the central worlds where the majority of the council's population lived. On the council capital world of Magna Centralis, panic had replaced order. The once beautiful crystal spires of the city were now surrounded by makeshift refugee camps. Ships arrived constantly, bringing people fleeing from worlds in the Devourer's path. In the Grand Council chamber, which had once hosted polite debates about trade agreements and cultural exchanges, military officers now stood around holographic displays showing the Devourer's advance. We have perhaps 3 days before they reach the outer defense perimeter, reported General Tark grimly. 5 days at most before they reach Magna Centralis itself. The council leader looked older than he had just months ago. And our evacuation efforts? Proceeding, but slowly, said the logistics officer. We simply don't have enough ships. At current rates, we can evacuate perhaps 30% of the population before the Devourers arrive. Silence fell over the chamber. Everyone understood what that meant. Billions would be left behind. The doors to the chamber opened, and Ambassador Krell entered. With him was a human woman in a dark blue uniform, Captain Imani Washington of the United Earth Ship Defender. Behind them came a team of human and council engineers carrying equipment cases. Ambassador Krell, the council leader said with surprise, we thought you had gone through the human gateway. I returned, said Krell simply. With help. Captain Washington stepped forward. The human evacuation fleet has arrived at the edge of your system. 20 ships, each capable of carrying up to 50,000 refugees. Additionally, we've brought technology that may buy us more time. The council leader looked suspicious. Why would humans help us now? You abandoned this galaxy to save yourselves. Washington's face showed no emotion at the accusation. Some of us disagree with that decision, council leader. We believe in helping all sentient life, not just our own. She gestured to the engineers who had accompanied her. More importantly, we've developed weapons that can actually harm the Devourers, using the crystalline technology they cannot detect or consume. General Tark looked interested for the first time. Weapons that work against them? Why didn't you bring these earlier? They're not a solution, Washington explained. They can slow the Devourers, even destroy some of them, but not enough to stop the swarm completely. They're too numerous now. The weapons will simply buy us time for more evacuations. While this conversation was happening, more humans had entered the chamber. They wore civilian clothes, engineers, scientists, and logistics experts who had volunteered to help with the evacuation. We need to begin retrofitting your defense ships immediately, Washington continued, and we need to establish a clear evacuation plan. The council leader nodded reluctantly. General Tark, give the humans whatever resources they need for the modifications and increase security around the evacuation ships. Security? Washington looked confused. There have been incidents, the council leader said uncomfortably. People trying to force their way onto ships. We've had to establish priority protocols for evacuation. What kind of protocols? Asked Washington, her eyes narrowing slightly. A council administrator stepped forward with a data tablet. Government officials first, then military personnel, then scientific experts, then general population by lottery. Washington's expression hardened. That's unacceptable. Excuse me? The council leader drew himself up to his full height. You have no authority here, human. Perhaps not. Washington replied coolly. But our ships do, and they will not transport anyone under those protocols. Our evacuation plan prioritizes children first, then caregivers, then elderly, then others, with equal representation from all species based on vulnerability, not status. How dare you dictate terms to the council? Sputtered the leader. Captain Washington is right, Krell intervened. This is about survival, not privilege. The debate might have continued, but alarms suddenly blared throughout the chamber. A communications officer rushed in, her face pale with fear. The Devourers have accelerated again. They've broken through the outer sensor network. They'll reach the defense perimeter in less than 12 hours. For a moment, the chamber froze in shock. Then Washington took command. We don't have time for arguments. General Tark, get your best engineers to the defense fleet now. Council leader, announce the evacuation protocols I outlined, or watch your ships leave half empty because we won't help. Perhaps it was her tone of authority or simply the desperation of the moment, but the council leader nodded. Do as she says, he ordered. All of it. In space above Magna Centralis, the final battle against the Devourers began. The massive Council defense fleet, ships that had once been the pride of galactic civilization, formed a protective barrier between the approaching swarm and the planet below. Among them were smaller, faster ships with unusual crystal formations jutting from their hulls, human vessels retrofitted with the new weapons technology. Several Council ships had been hastily modified as well, their energy weapons replaced with crystalline alternatives. Admiral Chen of the human fleet watched from the bridge of her flagship as the Devourers approached, a vast cloud of silver, particles that moved like a living thing, stretching out tendrils and pulsing with eerie energy. All ships with crystalline weapons move to forward positions, she ordered. Standard Council ships fall back to secondary defense line. Remember, your conventional weapons won't harm them, they'll only make them stronger. The battle began. The modified ships fired brilliant beams of green energy that actually seemed to hurt the Devourers, causing sections of the swarm to disintegrate rather than consume the energy. For a brief, hopeful moment, it seemed like they might actually push the swarm back, but there were simply too many. For each section destroyed, 10 more flowed forward. The swarm adapted quickly, becoming more cautious around the ships with crystalline weapons, flowing around them to attack the conventional vessels behind. When a Council ship was consumed, the Devourers seemed to grow stronger, using the ship's own matter and energy to create more of themselves. One by one, the outer defense ships began to fall. On the surface of Magna Centralis, the evacuation was in full swing. Human volunteers worked alongside Council officials, guiding refugees onto ships. Captain Washington stood at the main spaceport, overseeing the loading of massive transport vessels. Children and caregivers first, she called out, her voice firm but compassionate. Move in an orderly fashion. Everyone who's on the list will get a place. A Council official approached her, looking uncomfortable. Captain, there's a problem. Some Council members are demanding priority boarding contrary to your protocols. Washington's eyes flashed with anger. Show me. At a private loading dock, she found several high-ranking Council officials trying to board a transport with large amounts of personal belongings, while families waited behind barriers. Stop this immediately, Washington ordered. Unload those luxury items and make room for more people. Do you know who I am? Demanded one richly dressed official. I am the Treasury Minister of the Council. And I'm the person who decides if this ship leaves the ground, Washington replied evenly. Your choice, Minister. Your belongings stay, or you stay with them. In orbit, the battle was going badly. The defense fleet was being pushed back, the Devourers breaking through their lines. Admiral Chen made a difficult decision. All human ships with volunteers moved to intercept the main swarm, draw them away from the evacuation routes. Everyone else fall back to protect the transports. Several human ships, each with crews who had volunteered for what was essentially a suicide mission, moved directly toward the densest part of the swarm. Their crystalline weapons blazed, destroying thousands of Devourers and drawing the swarm's attention away from the escaping refugee ships. One by one, these brave ships were surrounded and consumed, but they had bought precious time, allowing dozens more transports to escape from the planet below. As the last defense line collapsed and the Devourers began their final approach to Magna Centralis, Dr. Samira Patel made a startling discovery aboard the research vessel that was monitoring the battle. "Admiral, the Devourers aren't just consuming matter randomly," she reported urgently. "They're collecting specific elements and compounds. Look at these patterns." The data showed that certain materials were being extracted with particular care by the swarm, rare metals and compounds associated with advanced technology. "They're gathering materials for something," Dr. Patel concluded. "Some kind of construction at the galactic core, based on their movement patterns." This discovery came too late to save Magna Centralis, but it provided a crucial piece of information about the enemy they faced. The Devourers weren't just a mindless plague, they had a purpose. As the final evacuations took place, Captain Washington remained at her post, ensuring that every available seat on every transport was filled. When the last ship was ready to depart, she made her decision. "You go," she told Krell and the remaining refugees. "My crew and I will stay to ensure the gateways." 2 years after the fall of Council space, a new society had begun to form in the distant star clusters beyond the reach of the Devourers. 3 star systems, connected by human gateway technology, had become home to the survivors of the catastrophe. They called their new alliance the Concordance, a loose federation of surviving colonies from many different species. On the primary world, a beautiful blue-green planet named New Terra, a memorial ceremony was taking place. In the central plaza of Hope City, thousands of beings from dozens of species gathered around a remarkable monument. It was a holographic display showing the names of every human who had volunteered for the suicide missions that saved millions of Council citizens. The names slowly rotated in a spiral of light, each one glowing briefly brighter as it passed the front of the display. Beside it stood a second monument, a wall of dark stone with tiny lights embedded in it. Each light represented a world that had been lost to the Devourers. There were too many names of the deceased to list individually. Billions had perished, but the lights served as a reminder of all who had been lost. Ambassador Krell, now elderly, but still sharp-minded, walked slowly to the speaking platform. As the Dovanri representative to the Concordance Assembly, he had been asked to address today's gathering. The plaza fell silent as he began to speak. 2 years ago today, the last gateway from Council space closed forever. Those of us who passed through will always remember the sacrifice of Captain Washington and her crew, who stayed behind to ensure our safety. Murmurs of respect rippled through the crowd. Many present owed their lives to the humans who had helped evacuate the Council worlds. Today we honor not just those final heroes, but all who gave their lives so others might live. We also celebrate what we have built together since then, a society unlike the rigid hierarchy of the Council. Here in the Concordance, technology is freely shared. Resources are distributed based on need. Ideas from all species are valued. Krell gestured to the city around them. Unlike the grand, imposing architecture of Council worlds, Hope City had been built for practicality and comfort. Buildings of different styles stood side by side, reflecting the diverse needs and preferences of its multi-species population. "Want to share something our historians and scientists have discovered?" Krell continued. "Something that explains the Devourers and why humanity was able to save so many of us." On large screens around the plaza, images appeared showing ancient star maps and strange artifacts. "The Devourers are not a random disaster," Krell explained. "They appear every 50,000 years to harvest advanced civilizations that rely on certain technological pathways, specifically the energy systems that were standard across Council space." The crowd murmured in surprise and horror. "Why didn't we know this?" someone called out. "Surely there would have been records from previous cycles." Krell nodded sadly. There were, but the Council, in its wisdom, systematically erased what it called primitive historical records when species joined our ranks. Ancient warnings, legends of great destructions, archaeological evidence of suddenly vanished civilizations, all were dismissed as myths or misinterpretations. On the screens, examples of these dismissed warnings appeared: cave paintings showing swarms consuming worlds, ancient texts describing a silver death that devours the stars, stone carvings of spiral galaxies with sections missing. Humanity, despite being considered primitive by the Council, had one great strength. They preserved their history. All of it: myths, legends, failed theories, alternative ideas. Nothing was considered too outdated or unworthy of study. Krell's compound eyes reflected the light of the memorial as he continued. Humans also never fully abandoned their old technologies. While the Council standardized all systems to what we considered the most advanced designs, humans kept developing alternatives. They explored paths the Council had dismissed centuries ago. This seemingly irrational behavior saved them, and by extension, us. He gestured to a group of human and alien scientists standing to one side of the platform. Dr. Samira Patel and her multi-species team have been studying the Devourers since our arrival here. Dr. Patel, would you share your discoveries? The elderly scientist stepped forward. Her hair had gone completely white since the evacuation, but her eyes were still sharp and focused. The crystalline technology that hides us from the Devourers is only the beginning, she said. By analyzing the patterns of the Devourers' consumption, we've determined they aren't simply destroying. They're gathering materials to build something at the galactic core. Images appeared on the screen showing complex simulations of the Devourers' movements across the galaxy, all spiraling inward. We don't yet know what they're building, Dr. Patel continued, but we believe it may be vulnerable to the very technologies we used to escape them, the crystalline energy systems that they cannot detect or consume. A murmur of hope spread through the crowd. We're not just hiding, Dr. Patel said firmly. We're planning. The first stealth probes using crystalline technology have already been launched back toward former Council space. The Devourers won't hold those territories forever, and when they leave, we'll be ready to reclaim what was lost. The crowd erupted in cheers. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about hope for the future, about eventually reclaiming their stolen homes. After the ceremony, Krell walked with Dr. Patel through the memorial gardens that surrounded the plaza. Children from different species played together on the paths, too young to remember the worlds they had left behind. Do you think we can really defeat them someday? Krell asked quietly. The Devourers have been doing this for millions of years. Dr. Patel smiled. Every cycle before this one, they consumed everything. No one escaped to fight back later. We're the first to break the pattern, thanks to humanity's peculiar habits. She looked up at the blue sky of New Terra. The Council's greatest mistake wasn't dismissing humanity's warnings about the Devourers. It was failing to understand that humans don't just predict disasters, they prepare for them. And they never ever give up the fight, even when victory seems impossible. Overhead, the sky darkened momentarily as a massive ship passed above the city, a new vessel built in the orbital shipyards. Unlike the desperate evacuation ships of 2 years ago, this was something else entirely. An exploration vessel, designed to seek out new worlds beyond their current star systems. Its name was visible on the gleaming hull: UCS Second Chance. By a research facility deep beneath New Terra's surface, a team of scientists from 7 different species worked in a heavily shielded laboratory. At the center of the lab, contained within multiple force fields, was a small silver object, a captured fragment of a Devourer, dormant but still intact. Day by day, they unlocked more of its secrets. They had already determined that the Devourers operated on a kind of collective consciousness, sharing information across vast distances. They were learning to decode the quantum signals the swarm used to communicate. Most importantly, they were developing weapons that could do more than just slow the Devourers down, weapons that might someday defeat them entirely. The human spirit, of exploration, ingenuity, and determination, had given the galaxy's survivors something the Devourers had eliminated in every previous harvest cycle. Not just survival, but a fighting chance. In orbit above New Terra, the final component of a massive project was being moved into position, a quantum beacon designed by human and former Council scientists working together. Its purpose was not communication but warning, designed to last millennia and be detectable by civilizations that might arise after the current Devourer cycle. The warning was simple: encoded in mathematics that any advanced species would understand. They come every 50,000 years. They hunt standard energy signatures, develop crystalline technology to hide. You are not alone. Others survived. We will help you. As the beacon activated, sending its signal across the galaxy, the people of the Concordance looked to the stars with determination. The Devourers had taken much from them, but they had not taken everything. They had not taken hope. They had not taken humanity's stubborn refusal to accept defeat. And they had certainly not taken humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy, the belief that different species, working together, could overcome even the most ancient and terrible of enemies. The fight wasn't over. It had only just begun. The end